Hello, welcome to my channel. Okay, so Mexican police found 45 bags containing body parts, and they're looking for 7 missing call center staff, and they're not certain if they're in the bags or not. But this just recently came out that they found these 45 bags. And I don't know if there's one person for each bag or if there's more than one person in each bag. So this is what's going on right now, and I wanted to look at some other websites of the past, like this one, and I'm going to skim through it. I'm not going to read it all, but you can pause it and read it. This one says 2000 clandestine graves, how a decade of the drug war turned Mexico into a burial ground. It says an investigation by a team of independent Mexican journalists showed that some 2,000 clandestine graves have been found in Mexico between 2006 and 2016. So, and it says it talks about the deep dive into Mexico's mass graves comes as the country inaugurates a new president who has pledged to take a new approach to the drug war. Bloodshed in Mexico became a more widespread and more brutal after December 2006, when they had that one president who declared war on the drug cartels. And then it talks about his successor. And it says in Mexico, 37,485 people were reported missing between December 2006 and last October, and this came out in 2018. It says it's unknown how many of them may have vanished into mass graves. So then it talks about February 20th, 1943, and one of the communities, I don't know how to pronounce it, in Mexico, watched with great astonishment as the earth opened up, expelled black smoke, and gave birth to a volcano, the youngest volcano in the world. More than 60 years later, on September 7, 2006, the same municipality in the state, and I don't know how to pronounce that either, was the scene of another uncovering. They dug up 6 half-naked men with their hands tied, their eyes covered, and their jugular veins slit. Okay, so this was a clandestine burial pit. It was discovered in a wooded touristic spot only a half an hour away from the thriving city of, and I don't know what that's called. So locals had reported seeing a luxury pickup truck drive by and soil turned over. It says the discovery of these bodies marked the beginning of a new barbarity. And from that point on, clandestine graves multiplied in Mexico's drug war. It's not enough for murderers to kill, they also go to a lot of trouble to hide the bodies. So then it talks about the different graves and things like that. And there's a map. And it talks about burial pits. It says there were at least 1,978 clandestine burial pits in 24 states, a number that greatly surpasses information provided by the Mexican government to date. State District Attorney's Office in Mexico recovered from these pits 2,884 bodies, 324 craniums, 217 bones, 799 bone remnants, and thousands of other remains that belong to, and it doesn't say, it says undetermined number of individuals. So it says the investigation found that only 1,738 victims have been identified, according to more than 200 requests made under the Freedom of Information laws to authorities in all 32 Mexican states. So like I said, I'm skimming this. You can pause it and read it. It says as Mexicans' drug war escalated, the phenomenon of mass graves reached catastrophic levels. In 2006, only 2 graves were found, while in the years that followed, the figure increased to several hundred per year. In 2007, 10 burial pits were discovered in 5 states. In 2010, the figure rose to 105 graves in 14 states. In 2011, it leapt to 375 throughout 20 states, equivalent to 1 per day on average. Since 2012, at least 245 clandestine burial pits have been found each year. Each year. It says illegal interments became a hallmark of the administrations, and it talks about their names, which I don't know how to pronounce, with criminals digging holes to hide their bodies of their victims, and in some cases burning them, in 372 municipalities in Mexico. This investigation allows us to know the municipalities where the organized crime has the ability to murder people and make burial pits to disappear them. It allows us to see the new modes of operation and governance where people don't dare report it to the police. And it gives her name. Oh, wow, that scared me. I had turned off notifications and that popped up and it startled me. I don't know if you heard it or not. Said the unprecedented figure of almost 2,000 graves over 11 years is supported by answers to public information requests that were provided by district attorney offices in 24 states. While the data exceeds all the numbers given previously by any authority, the information is still incomplete and at times conflicts with press reports and figures from the Mexican national government. So I don't know what's true and what's not, but this is what it says, and you can pause it and read more. So it's just crazy, right? Plagues of graves, it says. The stench started to saturate the landscape in 2010, and it gives somebody's name, and it says, 2 watchmen for an abandoned mine on the outskirts of the city of, I don't know how to pronounce it, and they heard trucks in the night and started to sense the unbearable smell of death coming out of one of the mine intakes. They realized that the intake's end had been unsealed and the mine shaft had reopened. It bothered us when we came because there was a lot of blood. Wow. It said, look, where did all that blood come from? He answered, who knows? Maybe they brought an animal. So then there was the horrible smell. So they went to work. Then some people reported the bad smell when the people from the municipality system for it, says Civil Protection Search, there was a hole where they threw them down. There were human beings down there. They said, we realized what was in there, that they were pulling people out. There were people stored, that the mine shaft wasn't empty. Both workers learned through the news that people were being taken out of the carts normally used to extract silver, according to the interview they gave in 2010. 55 bodies found. It says there were 64 were recorded in the local district attorney's office logbook, according to the families that went to the morgue to verify whether any of the bodies belonged to their missing relatives. There were more than 120. That moment was a prelude to how, since 2010, such discoveries have become more and more common. The official data obtained in this investigation shows, and it lists the states with the numbers of exhumed graves over 11 years are. It says the states with the highest number of exhumed graves over 11 years. So it says the states with the highest number. So I don't think it lists them all. But then you can see the numbers in the states. And then it talks about the other ones. It says in Veracruz, 125 graves and 290 skulls were found in one area. And it talks about that. 22,079 bone remnants. They still haven't reported how many people the remains corresponded to. And then it talks about San Fernando, an hour and a half away from Texas border. 139 graves and 190 bodies and bone fragments were recorded over a 2-year period. And this just goes on and on. It talks about the ghastly list of mass graves every year since 2008. The sum of the graves there, not taking into account the valley surrounding the city. So you can read this. This just goes on and on and on about, this says, Port City accumulated 108 burial pits from 2006 to 2016. The state of Durango exhumed the most bodies with 497, but the state of Veracruz reported they had exhumed 222 bodies, and then it just, like the numbers just keep going on. It says, which adds up to 672 victims. So, and then this one mentions 119 bodies, bone remnants that belong to 475 people with 594 victims. And that's not even the end of it. So, and this one talks about Graves are located in remote and deserted places. However, this investigation proves that this is not always the case. Burial pits also exist in populated neighborhoods and along busy avenues. In the spring of 2011, a noise awoke a married couple professionals who lived in a small house that had once been abandoned in a neighborhood in Durango City Center. The couple was surprised to discover some soldiers attempting to cut the chains of the entrance gate. When the couple questioned him, the soldiers asked them if they could come in and dig in their yard. They dug a first hole and didn't find anything. Then they went to the backyard, almost to the enclosing wall, where they found something. There were bodies. Elsewhere, under the cement floor of a palapa, there were more. Ever since, a rusty chain keeps the black gate locked. Grass has grown over the piles of dirt in the yard where the Army found 12 bodies. Most of the 350 bodies recovered in 2011 in Durango were buried in urban areas, some in the city center, other in houses, repair shop, workshops, construction sites, empty lots in the street, even next to a high school. This is far from extraordinary. In 18 out of the 24 states that responded, there are records of burial pits in the municipalities of capital cities. And this shows some of their clothing. This says, a sky blue tarp laid on the ground serves to display what appear to be some underpants, shirt, black plastic bags, shapeless pieces of fabric, and baby's clothes. Everything is stained with the same muddy color due to the time they remained underground. And it says the image published by the governor of Veracruz ran in the newspapers on September 7th alongside the news that 32 clandestine graves had been found with 174 skulls in the center of the state. Little trousers, bonnets, and sweatshirts. Baby clothes were found, and the clandestine massive graves in Veracruz. Read one headline highlighting the murder's cruelty. And this page just goes on and on and on. This one says reported at 855 in this place. This one says was in charge of leading search for efforts of missing people. So I don't. It says from January 2007 to May 2018, they located 1,306 graves, housing 3,926 hidden bodies and almost 36,000 bone remnants. From 2007 to 2016, they documented just 85 graves. The investigation recorded a much larger figure for the period between 2007 and 2016, 1,976 graves. It says this is likely still incomplete. That's because not every state acknowledges its graves. The governments of 7 states reported that in their territory there are no graves or similar sites, even when information coming to them or the press proves otherwise. This is the case in Baja California, which denied having records of burial pits, body dissolution sites, or kitchens, as organized crime groups call them kitchens, or any similar place where criminals could have disappeared the bodies of their victims. This is despite the fact that in 2009, in Tijuana, the Mexico Army captured Santiago Meza Lopez, presented to the press as, I don't know how to pronounce that, because he dissolved in acid the bodies of alleged enemies of Tijuana's cartels. He confessed that he had dissolved the bodies of at least 300 people. He said it while standing exactly in the location where he committed the crime, in a state on the outskirts of the city on community land called, I don't know how to say that either, so sorry that I can't pronounce these words. And then it says, and you can pause this and read it, finding teeth and pieces of bones. It says, in other words, there are clandestine sites in interment in Baja California. So then it talks about all these, and you can pause this and read this, because like I'm not even halfway down the page. So, and it talks about all the different places where they found bodies, and the years, and how many bodies. And this one says 2014 disappearance of 43 students from the Teachers College of, how do you pronounce that? So, and you can just scroll down and read it. It's just horrible, the amount of people and the violence and the devastation. Then this says sites of death, and it talks about different places, different years. And this lady that has looking for her daughter. So it talks about hundreds of dead people. A goat herd told her that he had seen 80 to 90 metal drums where people who had been captured were burned. So they had metal drums with ashes, buried human remains, shoes and clothes spread across the ground. And you can pause that and read it. And it says, thousands, ma'am. Every day trucks went by with people tied up in the back, piled up like animals. In the daylight, the sun was up high, she recalled the man answering. And the metal drums, they were taken to the junkyard, but there are still 2 over there, said the man. And he took her to the spot. And he said that's just one of the places that criminals established the extermination of people. It says a group of trackers to which Lucy belonged located other spots with drums full of holes made with I don't know what that is, a pick, in which they put their victims and burned them with diesel and gasoline. They used a truck tire to contain the fire and then put the burned remains in holes. So they helped organize a caravan, and they have the name of it, or Searching Alive, to carry out searches in the field, and it's just horrific. It's just horrific. And this talks about her daughter, not among the 1,738 victims in mass graves that they have already identified. It is just unbelievable. Talks about in 2011, bodies were destroyed by the excavator that extracted them. It's also difficult when the remains were burned, incinerated, or dissolved using acids or alkaline methods. It says we're 6 spots at least 18,680 bones remain, from which only 2 people have been identified. This one says 102,717 biological samples, and it's just crazy. It's just so many that it's just shocking to me. It's just, and the website just keeps going. And like I said, you can pause it and read it. I'm going to scroll down. And then there's this. It's just slides, pictures of slides. It says Forensic Tower of Babel. It's just so horrific, and there's so many. And they call them kitchens, it says again. It mentions clandestine inhumation sites, clandestine graves. There's the word kitchens again. Charred bones in a burial pit. The Body Destruction Center. And like I said, you can pause this and read it. This talks about how it's just horrific. It says it's urgent to have a clear record of missing people and additional fragments, remains, and graves to start creating search, exhumation, and identification policies. So I don't even know if they do what we do here to even find them. Talks about negligence and omission and things like that. It's crazy. This one talks about that woman with the picture. It says her son, his body, rescued from a grave, was lost due to lack of protocols. That is horrific. So you can't even get their remains to scatter their ashes or anything for some of them. And that is really sad. And this one talks about the young migrant was murdered in March 2011 by a criminal group in collusion with Well, I don't even know if that's true, but you can pause this and read it. But it's pretty horrific. It's pretty, I don't know if it's true, but if it's true, it's pretty horrific. It sounds really horrific. So, and I would imagine that if it wasn't true, they would have had to have taken it down, or they would have sued them, but I don't know. So I just read the one, and then I went to search for websites to get information about the one, and then when I go to search for websites to get information about the one, and like I said, you can pause this to read it if you want to, then I find these other ones. So they talk about, they've got the 7 people missing that were like telemarketers from a call center trying to sell timeshares or whatever, and they found these 45 bags containing human remains. And I don't know if there's one human remain in each bag, or if the bag's full of more remains, or how big the bags are, or anything like that. And they found it in a gorge on the outskirts. But then if you look in 2011, there's a place where they talk about 2011, they found 236 bodies in burial pits in Durango State, it says. So when it talks about that, you can find that online as well if you go search for it. And this one talks about 166 human skulls found in Mexico. When was this? This was September 2018. Drug gang investigators unearthed massive grave containing 166 human skulls in Mexico. So you can pause this and read it. That's talks about 114 ID cards, 32 burial pits, clothing, personal possessions. They were focusing on the skulls and counting because each one corresponds to one person. So, and I'll scroll down. You can pause this and read it. It's just pretty horrific. And this mentions the 2011, it mentions 2016 and 17 when they had found different burial pits with human remains. Whoops. So, and I lost my place. Let me scroll down so you can pause it and read it if you want to. Okay. So that's just crazy. So then here, I Google searched it so you can see 2016 and 2017 they found 253, I think it was. 253 skulls and bodies. So you can find there's various websites with this information online. And this one talks about the 166 human skulls found in Mexican mass graves, burial pits in Veracruz. So it's just pretty horrific. And then 2018 they had, so yeah, this is 2018 searching, 2016, 17, 2011, and then this one, because this site seemed to cover so much in different years, I thought it was interesting. And I don't know if it's true or if it's fabricated or anything like that. I just find the information online and read it, and there it is. So, and that's all just from looking for websites trying to find where they found those 45 bags containing human remains, because they're looking for those 7 missing people. And if you have any information whatsoever, please don't forget to contact authorities and let them know. Please feel free to leave comments. Don't forget to pray for these people and their loved ones and their families. And please feel free to leave comments and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.